Hi everyone, welcome. Late closing news, late on a Friday afternoon. I'm not sure if it's being announced late on a Friday because there's just been other things happening today, but something really important has just been announced. So Electrify America, the company that was built out of the court mandated fine that Volkswagen had for the whole Dieselgate debacle, has just issued what amounts to kind of an emergency statement. It's not classed as an emergency statement by the company, but it is very important. And essentially, it means that if you are traveling this weekend in the United States and you wish to take your electric car and use an Electrify America charging station. There are now Electrify America charging stations across the United States. I used Electrify America charging stations with no problems at all in the last 2 weeks ago, in fact, when we were driving down to Las Vegas and then back up from Las Vegas. So I'm going to read the announcement and I'm going to kind of tell you what that could mean for you. If you wish to see the announcement yourself, I'm actually going to share in the live chat the link so that you can read it for yourself. So go read that. I was just finishing my Sunday vlog, and there we go. All right, Electrify America partially shuts down. Now, this is the important thing. It doesn't appear to be a partial shutdown. It appears to be an almost complete shutdown. Electrify America partially shuts down its network as its global supplier investigates a safety issue with high-powered charging cables. For immediate release, rest on January 25th, 2019, at the recommendation of its supplier, HUBER+SUHNER, a leading American supplier of high-powered charging cable technology in the industry, Electrify America is shutting down the majority of its high-powered chargers, 150 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts, in its network to investigate a potential safety issue with its liquid-cooled cables. The recommendation was issued to all of HUBER+SUHNER's customers using the technology worldwide. So this is not just a Electrify America thing. This could impact everyone around the world if you are using a non-Tesla charging station. So please share this, tell everybody so that we can get the message out, because I don't want people to be stuck at a charging station this weekend. Nothing worse than being stuck at a charging station. Hi from the UK. Yep, hello everyone. Just realized there's some kitchen roll in the background. Unless I move it, someone is going to complain. I moved the kitchen roll. All right, I'm going to carry on reading this statement. The safety of our customers is our highest priority, said Giovanni Palazzo, president and CEO of Electrify America. Out of an abundance of caution, Electrify America is shutting down all of our stations that use the HUBER+SUHNER high-powered cables until we can confirm that they can be operated, safely. We are confident that HUBER+SUHNER will investigate and resolve this issue as quickly as possible. Electrify America chargers not affected by the high power cable issue will remain open and available for use. The 50 kilowatt CCS chargers, all CHAdeMO connectors and level 2 chargers are not impacted. That means at every Electrify America site, there's a 50 kilowatt charging station. I think there are two 50 kilowatts, a 150 and a 350. And this means that the 150s and the 350s will not be operational, but the 50 kilowatt charging stations will be. It is important, and it's very well done to Electrify America and everybody else involved that they are, out of precaution, turning off their charging stations. But at the same point, it may cause your journey to take a little bit longer because you may end up queuing for charging stations. All right, so the following stations will remain open. I'm going to give you a list. So Walmart Supercenter 91, Forest City, Arkansas. Walmart Supercenter 1065 in Arkansas, CHAdeMO only. Walmart 124 in Little Rock, Arkansas, CHAdeMO only. So those three are CHAdeMO only. So no level 2 at all and no CCS. Let me go back to this update because I managed to click a button and it disappeared. So let me see actually if I can share my screen. I don't think I can using this technology, which is a bit of a shame. Then the Livermore, the Torrance, the Flagler, the Fort Morgan, actually I should probably do this by state. So the Elk Grove, the Livermore and the Torrance stations in California. The Elk Grove and Torrance are CCS, CHAdeMO and level 2. The Livermore is CHAdeMO only. The Flagler, the Fountain and the Fort Morgan charging stations in Colorado are CHAdeMO only. The Littleton, Colorado is CCS, CHAdeMO level 2. The Stratford, Connecticut, Waterford, Connecticut charging stations are CHAdeMO only. So if you've got a CCS car, you're not going to be able to use that. Same for plenty of other stations. I'm looking at the list now. Bushel, Florida, Chipney, Florida, Orlando, Florida. They are all going to be CCS CHAdeMO for the 50 kilowatts. But if you want to use the one in Pensacola or Commerce, Pensacola, Florida, Commerce, Georgia, Forsyth, Georgia, Kennesaw, Georgia, they're all only CHAdeMO only. I'm not going to read out the whole list because you can go and read the list on the website. There is a press release on the website here, but essentially what's happening is that there's been an issue identified with the high power charging cables on 150 and 350 kilowatt CCS charging stations, and that is only CCS because we don't have any liquid-cooled CHAdeMOs out in the wild yet. And so as a matter of precaution, they are being shut down. I'm just reading this. EVgo kitchen roll, those are paper towels though. We call them kitchen roll in the UK. Okay. All non-Tesla chargers having trouble. Interesting news. Well, so the issue here is that the charging cables, it's not all of the charging cables, it's the liquid cooled charging cables at Electrify America sites. It's not caused by Electrify America. They are not the ones at fault. It's to do with the manufacturer of the charging stations, which is HUBER+SUHNER. Now, I know from conversations that I've had with Electrify America in the past that there have been plenty of complaints about the length of those cables because they're really short. You know, with a Chevrolet Bolt EV, which is one I drive, it's almost impossible to pull up to those charging stations head on without having to skew the car over or go sideways on to get the car to actually charge properly. So, you know, we're just making sure that you all are aware if you are going somewhere this weekend with a CCS enabled car, you are going to find, if you're banking on using an Electrify America charging station, that the number of stalls that are available to you are going to be reduced. It doesn't appear that the charging stations, sites are completely closed. It's kind of like a partial shutdown. It's like a partial government shutdown. Anyway, it's essentially, it will be half of the charging stations will not be working. I mean, for example, looking now, if you are in Oregon, as I am, the three charging stations, the three Electrify America charging sites, that's the one in Albany, Grants Pass, and Huntingdon, are currently only operating as CHAdeMO only. Now, there are some routes, for example, the I-5 corridor, where there are 25 kilowatt charging stations that you can fall back on. But essentially, the message is pretty simple. If you are making a long distance trip this weekend, this coming week, for the foreseeable future, if you are making a long distance trip by electric car and you are using a CCS charging station, you should probably check to make sure that charging station is operational before you leave, or at least to have a backup plan. It is good that these charging stations are being turned off for safety reasons, but obviously we need to make sure that these are all good. All right. Why is this great news? Says Michael. I don't understand quite what's going on there. All right. So, Hercules, New York just had an Electrify America put in. National Grid is slow in hooking into our mains. It is a huge milestone for central New York. I don't think Elon would be laughing about this, Rambler, Andy, and I think this is really a really important thing to talk about here. I'm not making this news story because, oh my goodness, it's breaking news and it shows that Electrify America is bad, because I genuinely don't believe that. I believe that Electrify America, like all of these other charging station companies, are doing great things. They're expanding the network. Yes, there are some issues with reliability in some cases, and the hardware. They don't make the hardware themselves, which is one of the reasons why Tesla has that edge there with the supercharger network. Let's not pretend that doesn't exist, because it does. But every charging network at some point or other has a failure point, and the reason behind this being these turned off is not because they're inherently unsafe. Out of extra precaution. There's obviously been an issue that has been identified, and to put it frankly, without swearing, you don't F around with 350 kilowatts. I mean, if you think, in your home, 240 volts is enough to cause you some serious damage at a fairly low current. You're talking about high voltage and high currents. You're talking about 400 or 800 volts. You're talking super high levels of current. You don't want to F around with that, especially not when there's coolant involved and a very expensive car. So I think, obviously, I think Elon will be sympathizing very, very hard with this. And I think maybe this is an opportunity for Tesla to start selling essentially what is its modular charging hardware to other companies. I mean, I don't understand why it hasn't already, because essentially the way that Tesla's cars communicate with the charging stations is no different to how other cars communicate with charging stations. I think they're all based off, the same basic protocol. So there isn't, I don't think, a reason why Tesla couldn't start producing and selling CCS compatible charging stations. We know that it's making CCS charging stations for Europe. So there's no reason why it couldn't be making and selling those to other companies to use for, mainstream cars. So that is cool. All right. So I don't know if there are people who are just trolling or if they are just like, I'm assuming that not officer is a troll. So I'm just going to ignore that comment. But that is essentially what's been going on. I'm going to keep an eye out on some of these other charging stations to look for others. I'm sure Tesla would, but would others accept their help? No, it's not about help, Andy. This is about a business opportunity. If you have, if Tesla was selling a product that was reliable and it sold it at a price that the other companies could buy it at, then yes, I think they would buy it, because it's not about pettiness. It's about business sustainability. And if you've got a good product that's going to last, then use it. If that product has got dubious reliability, then you're not going to buy it. And so I think that is the challenge. It's not the station, it is the cable, says Alan. Yeah, it is the cable. We should reiterate that. It's to do with the liquid-cooled cables. Now, I hope that Electrify America takes this as an opportunity to actually expand those cables and make them longer, because they're really short, really super freaking short. And I hope that we expand those into a longer connectability or connection, longer cables, so that you can make connections more easily between the car and the charging station. It's the end of a very long week. I'm a bit tired, you'll have to forgive me. But that news again is Electrify America has partially shut down its charging network. Essentially, it's shut down all 150 kilowatt and all 350 kilowatt charging stations until further notice, due to a potential safety issue with the liquid-cooled cables in the hardware manufactured by HUBER+SUHNER. And Electrify America is shutting down these charging stations as a response to a safety, essentially a safety bulletin or a safety announcement from the company that made those charging stations in the first instance. So Electrify America is still operational. But as I said earlier, if you are making a long distance trip in your electric car in the coming few days or weeks, and you happen to be someone who relies on these networks, then you should probably call ahead or research to make sure that those charging stations are actually open, because there is going to be some congestion at some of these sites. Because, you know, I've stopped at some of these sites before, and there's been plenty of other people who are using the charging stations, and obviously if there is an issue with a particular location, then it's very important that that these things be dealt with in a very safe way. Now, interestingly, I do not believe that it is all of the rapid charging stations. In fact, I would actually say definitely it's not all of the Electrify charging stations. Electrify America charging stations, there are some that are not on this list that I have used personally. So like the world's tallest thermometer, for example. Oh, that wasn't Electrify America, that was someone else. I do apologize. That was EVgo. So I mean, check your local charging stations and see. All right, I'm gonna read the comments now, and then I think I might call it a day. Before I start reading the comments, if you want to support us, please do like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can send us some money now through YouTube if you really want to. Send us a Ko-fi or support us through Patreon. All of this really helps because we are a growing network, and all of this takes money, and you don't need me to tell you, etc., etc. All right. This and Fully Charged is the best YouTube channel with electric news. Thank you, Jack. What happened to Electrify America, Rob? Well, as I said, temporary closure of some of the charging stations due to issues with the connectors, bad cables. All right. I'm sure you're correct with your even-handed opinion, Nikki. I've just finished watching Graham Norton on the Beeb, so I'm in a humorous ood. I think you mean a humorous mood, because if you were in a humorous ood, I would be very concerned indeed, because I don't think that the ood are a particular species that you would want to necessarily be in, or would want them. Yes, let's not go there. All right, this is grounded. This is like grounded of all airplanes of certain types when an issue is delivered, so maintenance can be done. Yeah, it's about safety. It's about keeping you safe. Just like if there's a problem with an airplane, they will ground all of a particular airplane. It doesn't mean that there's an inherent safety problem with all of the planes. It's that this plane has suffered a failure, and therefore that they are gonna ground all the other planes of the same type that were manufactured in the same time frame to make sure that it's not a fault that's replicated across the whole lot. And it's the same thing with these charging stations. Okay, so the charging stations, you know, they have to be safe. If there is an issue, presumably there was an issue either identified by a user or identified by an engineer, and so they have stopped using those charging stations to ensure the safety of all of their customers. Yes, it does mean that there's a little bit of inconvenience, but at the end of the day, you want to be safe. So that, I think, would be what I would recommend there. All right, so someone says it keeps cutting out. It might be because of the internet connection right now. We are uploading TE, Transport Evolved, has just finished uploading. Let me just check. Transport Evolved for tomorrow has just finished uploading to the internet. So it may be that what you're experiencing right now is a delay in the, effectively a delay in the network because of me uploading it and using the bandwidth somewhere else. So please bear with me. I'm just checking to make sure that this upload has finished, and in fact it has. So hopefully the network will get better. Yeah, Q&A library. Hi, Nikki. From my past maths with Ohm's law and being an electrician, there is a reason why the chargers have short cables. If they had longer cables, they might need to go up to a heavier size, and you are, in fact, quite right. Obviously, you've got a conductor, which is the cable, and you're pushing a large current through, and the higher the current you try and push through, the more the cable resists that current, basically, which is why they have liquid cooling in the first place, because the liquid cooling helps reduce the heating effects of you putting a large current through that cable. And so they are liquid cooled to ensure that the cables don't get so hot you can't touch them or have any other issues. Obviously, the longer the cable is, the higher the resistance across that cable, which means the more energy you have to pump in at one end to get out at the other. It causes all kinds of other problems with cables heating. They're harder to cool. So shorter cables are better. Cross-sectional area times length, I think, or something. I can't remember my physics. Resistance is not futile. Right. Kind of. Yes, that is it. Heat does cause resistance as well, yeah. So the more heat there is in the cable, the higher the resistance. It's basically down to the way that the little electrons travel and the current flow. Basically, if you've got loads of, the hotter something is, the more that there's activity in the cable and banging, crashing into each other and heat up. And then, yes, I'm not going to go into a full physics explanation, but it's right down at the molecular level here. It's physical properties of the cable, and you need to have a reasonably short cable so you can get the current down it. And obviously the other thing is, if you have to go up to a larger size, then the cable becomes even bigger, even more unwieldy, and then you have issues. And I know I've spoken to the folks at Electrify America a couple of times. I've spoken to other charging station manufacturers or charging companies, and they all say the same thing. You know, those 350 kilowatt charge cables are a beast to deal with, because they have to be chunky enough to take the current, but they also have to be flexible enough for your average person to be able to use them. So there we go. I'm going to now read some of these comments, and then I'm going to call it an evening. Gas stations since the beginning also had glitches to fix for public safety. I mean, it's true. Sometimes you'll go to a gas station and there'll be a pump out. So it's not a huge issue, but, you know, it is something that you need to be aware of. That's why I'm running this as a breaking news, because if you're making a long distance trip this weekend, and there is an issue with a charging station that you plan to use, you may either find that you can't charge, which would be a bugger, or that you'll end up queuing, or you might find that you have a longer charge time because you end up going somewhere else. So this is really for the benefit of anybody making a long distance trip this weekend. I think I dodged a bullet on the charging stations, because I used like 3 Electrify America charging stations, but it is not absolutely every Electrify America station. I can confirm that, actually, because if I go back to that list, see if I can go back to the list that I had a minute ago that I've now lost. See if I can find that that news. I'm going to go back to this list, because maybe it is all of them. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to wait and see. I can't confirm or deny that it's going to be all of them. All right. Why not enclosed charging stations? Because you need heat dissipation. Heat dissipation helps there's lots of high power electronics in there that get very hot. I used a destination charger today. Congratulations. I don't know if you're talking about a Tesla destination charger, or if you're just looking like a wall charger, which is cool as well. We should call them destination chargers, really, across the industry. So it will be fixed when they start using graphene, says Laserbeam. Well, you know, that's expensive to produce, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm surprised that people have not hacked the charging cables from the remote charger for the copper, etc. I think you would have to have a very, very, very powerful set of cutters to actually get stuff off there. So that is essentially what's going on with that charging station story. I'm just going to check and make sure that EVgo and none of the others are having the same issue. Well done to Electrify America for getting this story out so quickly. I mean, that's pretty good. And I'm not sure. I mean, maybe I'll try and reach out to some of these other charging companies and see. I can't see any other announcements on my feed relating to charging stations. Let me just check one more time. Nope. No other news. Nope. So I guess we just have to assume that, if you're going to use a charging station that looks a bit like the Electrify America ones, maybe you should check before you hit the road. All right. Thank you for watching. I am now going to call it and cut this one off in its prime, so to speak. I hope that you have a great weekend if you are watching this before your weekend gets underway. Otherwise, we will be back next week, and I've literally just finished a video for Sunday, and so Transport Evolved TEN is just about to go up online. Then I'm going to go home and I'm going to kick back. I've got some charity work to do this weekend and some house hunting. Charity work and house hunting and crafting. That's my challenge for the weekend, and revision for something that I can't tell you about yet. I might have some exciting news next week. Seriously, super exciting news. So there we go. I will talk to you all soon. Let me know if you're out and about and you encounter some of these charging stations that are not working. So I'll see you all very, very soon. I'll see one of you tomorrow. You know who you are because you're watching this. I know you're watching this. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Make sure you're out of bed before I arrive, because we've got to go and do things and do charity things, and got to be out of bed. I'm hoping that you're laughing at this, because I think you probably need a laugh. Anyway, everyone, have a fantastic weekend, and as always, keep evolving.